Exam day. This is everything you have been preparing for. This is where you actually prove that you have the knowledge and you understand the way that Asaka is asking the questions. Answer everything from the right point of view, and you hopefully pass the certification. Having mental clarity on this day is extremely important. You need to make sure that you go to bed early. It is also smart to book your exam in your peak hours. Peak hours are the time of day when you're most productive, when you're clearest. And depending on who you are, you know when that is. Some people wake up in the morning and they're just ready to go. They've had a good night of sleep, their brain is functioning. If you're that person, book it as early as you can. If you're the kind of person that needs to wake up, get some coffee, and a couple hours later, you're ready to go, then book the certification later. You know how your body works. You know when you're going to be best. Book the exam for that time. And get plenty of sleep the night before. Don't cram all the way up till past midnight, get a couple of hours of sleep, and then go at it. You just worsened your chances of passing. You also know how many hours of sleep your body needs to feel rested. Get that, and then a little more. I have some students that study the day of the test, and I have some that don't. If by this point you're not ready, then you should probably have rescheduled the exam already. I would not study on the exam day. And the reason I say that is, it's gonna wear your brain out, and you very much need that for the test. So let's take an example of Bob. Bob has been studying for months. He's scoring consistently high on the practice test. He understands why the right answer is the right answer and why the wrong answers are the wrong answers. He can explain all the concepts. Bob is ready, and he gets a good night of sleep before the exam. Bob is a morning person, so he books his exam at 8 a.m. You need to arrive at the test center before your exam. Do not get surprised by traffic. If you're more than 15 minutes late, they can choose to refuse you taking the exam. You showed up late, you lose the money. So be ahead of time. Plan in a half an hour extra buffer just in case traffic is bad. The test center for Bob is 20 minutes away. To be in good time, he leaves at 7 o'clock. He arrives on time, and then there's the check-in process. You obviously have to confirm who you are. You need 2 sets of IDs. One of those have to have a picture on it. They have to be officially issued. Driver's license, passport, ID card, whatever you have where you live. The second set of ID doesn't necessarily have to have a picture on it, but it's better if it does. But you can bring other things, credit cards, student IDs, whatever else you have that can prove you are who you say you are. Then your picture is taken. You sign an agreement form saying you're going to follow the exam outlines, you will not cheat, and then all your belongings are put in a little PSI bag. That's your cell phone, your keys, your wallet, anything else that could potentially help on your exam. If you have brought food, drinks, snacks, whatever you have with you, it's going to get put in that bag. And the bag is going to get locked, and it's going to be hung over your chair in the exam room. Bob has the 2 sets of IDs, his picture is taken, and he signs the agreement form. Then his stuff is locked away in the bag, the proctor takes him to the exam room and puts the bag on the chair. Understand, there might be 25 other people taking different certifications in that room. It will not be quiet. So if you're smart, you either ask them for headphones, the little earbuds. I've even taken a test in a place where they had those big industrial earmuffs where you can drown all the sound out. I suggest using them. Other people are going to be coughing, they're going to have nervous tics, they're going to be tapping the pens on the tables, they're going to be upset if they fail. Drown as much as possible of that out. And the CISM exam is proctored. That used to mean that someone was sitting in the room and watching the whole time. Most places now, however, that's replaced with video cameras. And if you need something, if you need to go to the bathroom, if you need a break, if you need to eat a snack, you either raise your hand and they come and get you, or you go to the door exiting the exam room and you will be checked out. So let's say Bob goes to the bathroom. When he comes back, he has the same 2 set of IDs, checked that he did originally, checked again, and you may not leave the building. But you can go to the bathroom, you can get something to drink, eat a snack, maybe take a 5-minute break, but remember, the exam never stops. If you choose to take a half an hour break, you now have half an hour less for your exam. I highly recommend taking the breaks, but make them as short and as efficient as you can. Go out of the exam room, eat some sugar, drink some caffeine, clear your mind, and then go back to the test. And in your studying, if you've done a full 150 question test, you're probably going to know when you're going to hit the wall. Let's say that after an hour and a half, your brain stops braining. Then at an hour and 15 minutes, you take a break. You avoid the wall. Take that short break and come back fresh. Figure out how it works for you, and this is also why I recommend that 150 question full exam, because you don't know how your body and your brain is going to react after 2 hours or 3 hours of question after question. Back to Bob. Bob is now in the testing center. The proctor has taken him to his desk, and he confirms that the workstation has Bob's name on it, and it is the right exam. And unlike most other certification exams, you do not get pens or paper to use in the exam room, so you cannot write any of the mnemonics down that you would at other exams. After the proctor confirms it's you, they leave the room. Bob clicks Start Exam. At that point, his 4-hour timer starts, and you have 4 hours to answer 150 questions. 25 of those are beta questions. They do not count. You are only graded on the 125 questions. You have no clue which of the questions are beta questions. What that means is you have over 1.5 minutes to answer every single question. You are okay to slow down and deconstruct every single question. Figure out what are they actually asking here and not the convoluted construct that the question is often made in. And this is why it's so critical in your test prep that you have done this over and over and over. Even when you start, if you take 2 or 3 or 5 minutes per question, that is perfectly fine. Because the more often you do it, the faster you're going to be. So by the time you get to the exam, 1.5 minutes is way overkill. So for my exam, English is not my first language, and I was able to finish 150 questions in less than 2 hours, and I had actually not slept the 2 nights before the exam. Had I had good proper sleep, like I always recommend, I assume that time would have been lower. So you have plenty of time. Take the time and deconstruct the questions. But make sure this is not the first time you do it. You need to do it consistently through your exam prep. On the CISM exam, you can mark questions for review. That means when you mark them for review, you can go back and look at them later. But if you mark them for review, always, and I mean always, pick an answer regardless. That way, if you run out of time and you don't have enough time to go back and look at the questions you had marked for review, you still have a good chance of getting it right. If you have enough time to go back to the questions, if you want to change an answer, very clearly be able to articulate why you're changing that answer, because most often your first instinct is right. The exam is not open book, it is on a computer, and if you go to the PSI YouTube video I will link in the next section, you can see how exam day will look. They have a little 3 to 5 minute video that shows you all the practical stuff around the exam. All 150 questions on the exam are multiple choice questions. You get a question and then you have 4 options, A, B, C, D. You pick the right answer, or you pick the one that you think is the most right answer, and then you move on. So, let's go back to Bob again. Bob knows that at 1 hour and 30 minutes, his brain is going to give out. So at 1 hour and 15 minutes, he takes his first break. He gets up, he notifies the proctor, he gets some candy, he gets some caffeine, he goes to the bathroom, and 5 minutes later, he's back in the exam room. Hopefully, he has reset his mind and he can start over. Meditate if you can do that. Just close your eyes for 20 or 30 seconds, clear your mind, and then go at it again. The CISM exam is very much an English exam. That is why you need to deconstruct the convoluted sentence structure into something that makes sense. Also remember, it's a marathon. You're going to be there for up to 4 hours. So find a strategy that works for you, how you can cope with the brain melt and the exhaustion that is going to set in at some point. And if you find a way to do that, that is going to make you successful. And when you're done answering the questions really depends on who you are, how quick you read, how many questions you have deconstructed before the exam, how prepared you are, and also, is this test in your first language? If it is not, you will obviously take a little longer. So once you hit question 150, you get the option to end exam, or you can go back and look at the questions you had marked for review. When you're done with that, then you click end exam, and you get your result right away. You do not get your score, but you will see a pass or fail. I hope, of course, you get a pass. The actual score you got on the exam you will get within 10 business days, sent to the email you registered with for the exam. And while you want to see pass here, also understand the CISM is a difficult exam. There are many people who do not pass on their first or second, even third attempt. And if you are one of those people, don't despair. While I passed my CISM on the first try, I also hold other certifications where I failed multiple times. And learning to fail is really how you are going to be successful in life. How do you react when you fail? Winning is easy, losing not so much. And in the next 2 sections, I'm going to cover what to do when you pass and what to do when you fail, because you are not done yet. and I will see you in those sections.